States murder trial will begin with the Paralympian's lawyer resuming his cross-examination of the first state witness. Michelle Berger lives close to the Blade Runner's home in a security complex east of Pretoria, where he shot and killed his model girlfriend Riva Steenkamp on the early hours of Valentine's Day last year. Proceedings in the North Gauteng High Court are due to begin at 9:30 this morning. Let's cross now live to our reporter Griselda Lewis. She's at the High Court in Pretoria, just keeping an eye on what's happening on the ground there. Griselda, a very good morning to you again. Proceedings began with a bang yesterday, the first witness in the hot seat. So what's expected to happen today?
A very good morning to you, Ayanda. Yes, lots of drama inside the North Gauteng High Court yesterday. Well, this morning we were expecting the cross-examination of the state's first witness, Michelle Berger, to continue here. Well, she painting a very graphic picture yesterday, the first contradictory statements to what Oscar Pistorius has been saying. Oscar Pistorius, of course, let me remind you, has been saying that he shot and killed Riva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day, thinking she was an intruder in the bathroom of his Pretoria home. Well, Michelle Berger says something totally different. Michelle Berger says that she went on to describe hearing screams from a woman, also went on to describe hearing 3 screams of help from a man, and also went on to describe further loud bangs that she heard, which she is confident, she says, she believes they were gunshots. So the defense also trying to very much poke holes into her testimony yesterday. Let's take a look at this clip very briefly of what happened inside court.
You're confident to say those were gunshots, not cricket bat noises?
Lady, I'm 100% convinced I heard gunshots that evening.
Yes, and your only experience with gunshots was once at a driving range and other times when you hear gunshots and you interpret them to be gunshots. You don't see the person firing.
Lady,
you knew that's gunshots.
I was at a driving range once where I shot on my own. I did, when I was much younger, go with someone else that also shot once. So that was the second occasion when I was younger. And then I've heard shots in the neighborhood before. But, milady, really, I do know what a gunshot sounds like. Yeah. It's very clear.
Well, we're expecting that cross-examination to continue this morning, Ayanda, as we mentioned. I'm now going to chat to CP Fourie, who is a practicing attorney and the former president of the Law Society of Northern Provinces. He has extensive experience in criminal law. Mr. Fourie, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Now, you heard yesterday, basically the defense digging into the testimony of Michelle Berger. Does this give us an indication of how the defense plans to proceed in this case?
Morning, Griselda. It's a wet and a miserable Pretoria, and I'm getting wetter and wetter by the minute. To try and answer your question, from the plea explanation in terms of section 115 by the defense, it is clear that they will try and show that it was a terrible accident. From the brief opening statement on behalf of the state, it is clear that the state is going to try and prove murder, and in particular premeditated murder. So yes, to answer your question, that would be the line that the state would try and follow to indicate that there might be a quarrel or a fight or words or something to that effect, in order to establish some type of motive that may point to the charges or the charge number 1 put to the accused. Obviously, the job of the defense is to poke holes into the state witnesses, to discredit the state witnesses, and to, at the end of the day, be able to argue that it is not reliable evidence that was given. So yes, it will be the pattern, I assume, for the case as it goes on and as it unfolds.
Is it very strategic, though, in the sense that the first witness that was called is not necessarily a witness, but is someone who lived more than 170 meters away from Oscar Pistorius' house, to basically paint a picture that indeed there was a fight that took place, and basically contradicting Oscar Pistorius' version of events?
This case, we know there are no direct evidence in this case, but for the evidence of Mr. Pistorius. So this case will be determined on circumstantial evidence, ballistic evidence and forensic evidence. And that will either show whether there's credibility in a particular version or whether there's not. So it will either assist or not assist the defense.
I want to talk very briefly, just before we wrap up our interview, about the interpreter inside the courtroom that really coming under scrutiny as well. Allegations that some of the interpretations that were made were not correct from Afrikaans to English. You did express concern about that as well.
Griselda, in my view, there was a big problem with the translation. The translation was from Afrikaans to English. And in my view, the interpreter struggled to find the correct English words for what the witness said in Afrikaans, and also did not translate the full answers of the witness to the court. I think a lot of the nuances as a result of that the witness expressed in Afrikaans got lost in translation.
I'm afraid, Mr. Fourie, we're going to have to leave it there. Morning Live needs to continue with other news, but that was Mr. C.P. Fourie, who is a practicing attorney and also the former president of the Law Society of Northern Provinces. We'll continue to unpack here for SABC News as the trial continues.
Thank you so much, Griselda. We'll hear from you a little bit later. Let's move on to this now. A report from the SABC board